Good evening, and welcome again to Public Perspective. We hear a lot in the news these days about small businesses, so we thought, well, let's talk to an actual owner of a small business. Our guest tonight is Mr. Jack Baldus. He's the owner of an art gallery in LaGrange, Illinois, called Blue-Eyed Jack's. Jack, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, let's start with the basic stuff. Tell me about the store itself. I mean, I've been in there, I've seen it, but our audience may not know. So describe your store. What do you sell? What is what will the customers see when they come in the door?
The store is a combination of an artisan shop and a vintage and antique furniture and home accessory store. So it's a combination highlighting the art in a home setting. I have an art degree, and when I graduated from college, I had hopes of being a curator. And I was led on a merchandising path instead. So when I was rethinking about my dream, I decided, well, it would really be fun to open an artisan shop and combine my love of merchandising with my knowledge of retail and also my knowledge of local artists and the whatnot. So it's quite a mix of fine art, fine craft, local artists, regional artists, and then to throw the whole mix in, we've got the antique and vintage going on too.
And I should let our audience know, in the essence of full disclosure, that my wife, who is an artist, exhibits at your gallery.
Yes, she does.
And we have made a number of purchases from your shop as well,
yes,
and been very happy with them, I might add.
Thank you.
Yes. So you talked about the artists that you work with from throughout the region. How do you find them, or do they find you?
When we were in concept for the store, I had already collected business cards from artists from shows that I was going to long before I decided to jump off a cliff and leave my corporate position to follow a dream. Mm-hmm. And so I contacted some of those artists, continued to go to art shows for the 2 years before we opened. And actually, since we've opened the doors, people are just coming to me. And that's where I've picked up a lot of the local people. Customers will come in, we start talking, oh, you know, I'm an artist, or oh, my daughter does these wonderful pieces. And I have a high school student, she's a freshman in high school, and I also have an 8th grade artist that I'm representing.
That's fabulous. So even the youngsters can come in and really feel what it's like to make real artwork and really have it exhibited and for sale in a gallery.
And for sale, yes, they're entrepreneurial. And for me, it's really all, it's all about what it is. Mm-hmm. If it's something that I really like, then I want to bring it in. It's not always just about the markability of it. It's really about what the pieces are. So that's what I get excited about.
Well, let me come back to something you said a minute ago, which I thought was really interesting, about pursuing the dream, being willing to take the plunge, quit the regular day job, and then the fact that you spent 2 years preparing to open the store. That's quite a commitment, isn't it?
I believe so. I guess it was. I was basically I say I was in 2 years concept because I had talked about it and thought about it before, leaving the corporate world. So that gave me time to purchase inventory, contact mm-hmm. artists, look at, artists' work on the web and things like that too. So I guess I was determined.
Well, I think it's interesting because we talk about the American dream a lot in today's political dialogue, or if you can even call it dialogue, screaming at each other in the political theater. But here you actually have pursued a dream and taken great risk, right? And I think is that what motivates you to be willing to make that kind of change and take that level of risk in order to do something like this?
I think it's my upbringing. It's not always, sometimes I just do things more passionately than sensibly, maybe. But it's really that you don't know unless you try. And I know you hear that often, mm-hmm. that, how do you know unless you try? And I just had gotten to a position with my corporate job that it wasn't going to go any further as far as climbing the ladder. It was definitely a decent paycheck, but it wasn't challenging enough. It really wasn't creative enough for me. You know, I have an art degree, I'm an artist also, so, and I wasn't doing a lot of art on the side because of the time commitment with that job. So I just really started thinking about dreams and things, ideas that I had, and I'm just like, you know what, with the way the job was going and stuff, I was just like, okay, I can do this. I basically have worked in retail all of my life in one way, shape, or form, whether it's, you know, on the sales floor or behind the scenes or shipping and receiving. So I had a very good sense.
And kind of well-rounded background.
Well-rounded of a retail operation. And I thought, well, I can do this.
And so here you are, actually doing it.
And here I'm doing it.
Yeah, and it's, as we approach the holiday season, this will be a big time for you, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, do you have artists who will do shows at your gallery as well?
We haven't zeroed in on doing solo exhibitions. The way I pretty much have started it was the first year to just try to get in, get the artists in, rotate their work, but try to stay with the artists and kind of feel out my first year. That's really for retail, your year that you're very much learning about the community and about what people really are looking for, and kind of how to run your business, even if you've been in retail a lot before.
But
so
all of a sudden, you're the guy in charge. Your decisions make or break it, right?
Well, yes.
So when you're working with the local artists, and now that you have people coming to you, how do you determine who you're going to show and who you won't?
That's a really good question. And for me, it's really very much about my personal tastes. Art is completely subjective. I'm sorry, it's just not objective. I mean, people should really just buy what they like because they're the ones who have to live with it. So sorry, all those collectors out there.
But I think that's really important. I'm glad you said that, because I think that's important for people to understand, that it's not about trying to find something that will be a great investment or something because it's some name they know or someone else thought it was really cool. It's really about your own tastes, right?
Well, your own, yes, and what moves you, especially with a piece of fine art. So really when I select work, it has to strike a chord with me. For the most part, it has to be well crafted. And yes, as a good retailer, I also have to feel that there's some type of market for it. But the previous two, you know, the market for it generally tends to take the bottom rung. I'm really much more about, oh wow, that is just so cool. I have to have that in here. And then you hope that you can build an audience that feels as passionate about the pieces as you do. And my enthusiasm certainly shows on the sales floor when I'm talking about pieces.
Well, because you pick the things that really move you, that enthusiasm just comes naturally, right?
Very much so. Very much so. And being an artist also, I have a lot of technical experience with how things are done. So I know what these artists are putting into their pieces, and I know, you know, as far as the craftsmanship, what I'm looking for that way. You know, because I've taken ceramics, I've done weaving, I've, you know, been a painter, so I can make the selection from those points of view too.
So as you're doing this, it occurred to me while you were saying that marketing or what will sell is down the list, and it's more a matter of what you like. But I would think that the two go hand in hand, and that if you do bring in the things that you think are genuinely cool, that the people who come into your store are going to, over time, they will understand your taste and your sense of style. And those who are attracted to that will feel confident to come into your store because they know that what you're going to choose is not something that's there just because you think someone else will buy it. It's there because you like it. And I think that way you market your own aesthetic sense, which I would think would end up being, after people get to realize what that is, would get to be a marketing plus.
Yes, yes, and really, I tell customers all the time that this is, when they come into the store, when we start talking about my design philosophy or not, I basically just say, this is how I live. You know, that yes, you can mix all of these things that are totally mismatched and from different periods, and with your, you know, abstract art, and it truly is. The store is definitely an extension of how I live. I've been an antique collector for very many years, and my tastes have changed. I'm much more into mid-century, modern, and 1950s and 60s pieces. But
Several of which we now own in our own home, thanks, courtesy of
yes,
Blue Light
actually,
Jack,
you own
yes.
one of the best that I had. So, but my house, it's just it's a mix of Victorian and mid-century mod and contemporary, and because when you find interesting pieces that you really like, when you bring them into your house and love them, that's what makes a home.
So speaking of interesting pieces, you've brought a few interesting pieces with you tonight, haven't you?
I have. Yes, I have.
So grab one and let's talk about it.
This bowling pin and or juggling pin, because I have been told by my maybe more knowledgeable customers that this may be a juggling pin, which at the time I figured it was a vintage bowling pin. Yeah, I think it's just really a great piece.
So I would look at that, actually being married to an artist, I would not look at that in the way I'm about to describe, but I think that it would be easy for someone to come in and say, it's just an old bowling pin. What's cool about that?
First of all, I think the color is really cool. I haven't seen that many bowling pins that are red and yellow striped. Now, not that I'm a very fluent bowler.
Yeah, right. But they tend to be monochrome, and this one
But they
is
tend
not.
to be monochrome. And even I think the monochrome ones are probably interesting. I mean, it's really a great shape. And then the striping is it's just beautiful to me. It's a piece of sculpture. And even the wear on it, I mean, this piece has, you know, a nice ding at the top where it's actually, you know, it's wood, or it's vintage because it's wood. And I like all of that. I like to see the wear in a piece. I like to see what we call patina, which is the layers of
Just usage, really.
usage, correct. And for me, when I saw them, I actually do have two. When I saw them, I just thought they were so interesting just as themselves, that you don't have to be a bowler, or you don't have to know someone who's a bowler, that they work for me as pieces of sculpture.
And I think that's so interesting to hear that, because you would look at these and say, well, of course, the initial reaction, they're bowling pins. But you talk about appreciating the actual shape and the fact that they look sculptural to you. And I think that's really so interesting, because that brings an artistic perspective to it that you wouldn't necessarily think about. I mean, and I'll ask you, is that generally true, where it's very easy, you know, we see things throughout our lives, we're busy, we look at things, we say, oh, this is that, or that's something else, that's a globe, this is a table. But is there another eye to use when you're looking at these everyday objects to see something else?
Well, for me there is, I guess. It's the eyes I was born with. So,
And have developed over the years.
And I have developed over the years, but I do feel that some people are just born with a design sense or a creative sense, and other people are accountants. Nothing bad about accountants, but
we need them too. And as a businessman,
well, we need them, but
that, right?
you know, my mind certainly works on the right side of the brain and much more creatively than it does mathematically. That's for sure. And yeah, you know, a thing of people can find beauty in anything, and who are we to really say? And that's where, you know, that's why art is so subjective.
So subjective, right?
Yeah.
So if we were going to take this set, and you know, we've had this same set now for many years, and it might need a little redoing. So I think you've got some more items there that we
I
might
do.
use.
Well, I thought it'd be fun to just kind of show how we could keep the set that you have and work with the rather nautically inspired globe, and show how, with my design sense, that what I think would work with the globe, and then maybe say, let's do a clean slate and start fresh and maybe do something different.
Have at it.
Okay, I will. Now, I like the bowling pins and or juggling pins, and the reason I think they work a little bit nautically, because they also, the shape, I think, works like a buoy. And I also think the stripes are very nautical. So those definitely work. I have this really wonderful handcrafted fish sculpture that's handcrafted out of wood and recycled pieces. So I've got bottle cap for the eye, we've got license plate for the fin, license plate for the fin and tail, and then it's all tricked out very nicely with the very nice paint treatment.
I have to say that that's pretty cool. That if no one else purchases that, we might have to come by and see that in the shop. That's a pretty cool piece.
So I think this all works because it's somewhat nautical. I mean, these aren't, again, entirely nautical, but I think for one, it adds a really nice spark of color to the set. And I like to have some element of the unexpected. And I certainly think both the colors and the bowling pins, and certainly that kind of funky fish sculpture are rather unexpected.
Certainly on this show, where, as you can see, we have traded on the bare bones set for many years. But what's interesting here is that you've taken what is actually a very bare bones set, and with only 3 pieces, you've changed the feel and look of the thing. And in fact, as I look at the monitor and look at it, it's an entirely different feel from what we have established here. And it was simple. So how do you, when you're talking to customers, how do you talk to them about being able to do that kind of thing in their own homes?
Good question. I haven't really been approached yet as far as doing design work for my customers in that sense. My business seems to be very gift-oriented. I do basically have something for everyone, and I have price ranges for everyone. I do have a branded line of merchandise, the Life is Good brand, that I thought was just a very good fit for the area. It was something I was familiar with from my corporate job. And we have stickers for $1. The whole concept of the store, when we were thinking about it, was based loosely on an old general store where you could
buy anything you needed.
Walk in and buy anything you needed. And so I kind of used that as a basis for how I was going to remodel the store and the kind of mix. So in answer again to your question, honestly, it really hasn't come up that specifically. Again, once I start talking about furniture or, loosely, it's much more loosely that way, I say, well, this is basically how I live. Yes, you can mix fine art and contemporary with your antiques and vintage. It largely depends too on the customer. And right now, because we're just in our first year, we'll be celebrating a year at the end of November. People are still getting to know us. So, and it takes, well, you've been there. You need a few trips to really kind of see everything. And just when you think you see everything, I go and change it all. So,
the essence of good retailing.
Well,
right?
Yes, it is actually. That's one of the keys. Is to keep it fresh and change it.
Well, speaking of fresh and changing, you talked about taking a fresh look at this table altogether. So
can you handle losing your nautical globe?
I think I can. I can survive. Yeah.
Now, if one or two of these reappear, that'll be okay too.
I think that's quite all right. Yes.
These are fun little ceramic vases made by a couple out of Asheville, North Carolina. I brought you, I know they're silk, but let's pretend they're real so we actually have some life aside from ourselves in the studio. So what I wanted to show really is how you can kind of mix some of the similar elements, or you can change it. I mean, the fish, I think, still works with this arrangement. Again, because everything now is a little bit more contemporary.
And a little more abstract as well.
And a little bit more abstract, right.
And I like the color mixing. You can pick up some of the colors from the different vases that seem to mix together with this overall, with the fish up front, and the fish is in the foreground, so the more muted colors in the background, and you still see them coming forward. Now, I would not know any of this if I were not married to an artist. So,
Very good.
Yeah, so I will let you talk about the art.
Donna would be proud.
Yeah, I would hope. Yes.
Well, not patting myself on the back, but I somewhere have developed a gift for color, and it just comes very naturally for me. So maybe even subconsciously, when I picked this wonderful sculpture, looking at it now, I can totally see a relationship with the orange. And of course, I picked orange because we're in October and you have to have orange.
Fall colors, there you go.
And again, it's very subconsciously maybe, I just have a knack for being able to put things together. I did have a very good instructor my very freshman year of college in art theory. He was one of the dreaded professors at UW Milwaukee. But he was tough, but he was very good. And so I will accredit Mr. Berman for any knowledge I have picked up color sense from him.
We've all learned from people who are experts long before we even got close to it. Right?
Oh yeah.
So, would you recommend that we then change our set and we'll go to something more contemporary as we go through the years with the next shows?
It'd be nice to have a little color in here, Kevin.
I'll take that as advice. So you've got some more things on the floor there too.
Well, and these are just things that you can easily just add to kind of switch it up if you want to switch it up a little bit. Books are always great. They can always be used as a little riser to set and get some different height. And again, we can pull this out and bring back our wonderful bowling pin. Again, we've got this color relation.
And the shape relationship between the
and the shape relationship. I mean, all these pieces work together. We can even bring back your trusty globe. And I still think that this very contemporary vase still works with this whole arrangement. And again, part of that is the juxtaposition of the surprise, I guess, is what I'm saying, because it kind of throws in a surprise element. So.
Well, I think you're right. I see that the books and the globe you kind of see as being traditional. You could see that in a turn of the century kind of home. But then you're right. The surprise is this very abstract piece in front, and then somewhat abstract, but clearly not a different era from the vase, a different era from this piece here. Yet it all mixes well. Even I would say even the difference in elevation. You know, as your eye comes through, you can look up and see this in the foreground, but it's small, and things ramp up, kind of come around like this, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's about layering. It's about layering. So, and that might be the merchandiser in me also.
Well, I would say that the idea of merchandising and even home decoration, there is clearly a relationship. When you decorate your store, which is essentially what you're doing, you want people to come in and think, wow, this is a pretty cool place. And
Yes.
that's initially what you want them to
Hopefully.
think, right?
Yes.
So I would think similarly when decorating one's home, you want people to come in and think, wow, this is pretty cool, right? So what works in retailing and display, is it really that much different from what works at home?
Not when it comes to display. I mean, the merchandising end of it, from the retail standpoint and the marketing, there is a little bit more science probably to that. But as far as the display of it, no, you can use the same elements of design work, in the retail store merchandising and or the home decor. They're all pretty much basic design. So
Design works wherever it is.
design hopefully works wherever it is.
Well, and that's another question. How does the design change as a result of the environment where it's being placed or where it's being designed?
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, for example, this works very well here, and it's a very stripped down area, so
Right.
doing this here makes eminent sense. If you were to go to someone's home that might be Victorian, for example, and everything's kind of a mode there, would this be the same design you would put there, or would it be something that's more attuned to that environment?
Basically, it would be more in tune to the person I'm working with as far as, yes, so I guess in that respect it'd be more towards the environment. I mean, working with customers and or clients, you always want to find out what their needs are and then find out what they like. And because I'm an artist, trained as an artist and not trained as an interior designer, I'm much more of a decorator. I think I have a little bit different aesthetic than trained interior designers. Again, you should really like the pieces you're bringing in. Hopefully you should love them.
Each individual piece as well, right?
Well, I think yes,
Yeah.
because you still have to live with them. And so
Well, I would have to, actually, believe it or not, we're already out of time. So I think that's about as well as I think we could sum it up. You have to love the pieces that you bring into your house. And you'll find lots of them at Blue-Eyed Jack in LaGrange, right?
well, yes, you will. Thank you.
Jack, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank
It's been
you
a pleasure.
very much.
And thank you for joining us once again on Public Perspective. I'm your host, Kevin McDermott. You can find us on Comcast Channel 19 every Saturday night at 8. You can also see us on the web at publicperspective.tv. Until next time, thank you and good night.